All right. Well, welcome back to This Podcast Takes Tokens. I'm Derek. This is Ryan, and we are your hosts. We are here to discuss what makes us millennials, more or less. We like to go back and rehash the past through pop culture that defines us, as well as share some memories along the way. So this episode is brought to you by me and my brother here, Ryan. We put a lot of work into these episodes, and we hope that you enjoy them. And if you do, please support us by just going nuts on those buttons below. Press them all to your heart's content.
Please.
Whatever player you're on. Absolutely. And share it. Share it with your friends. Share it with your enemies. Share it with the guy that you met on the subway today. We would greatly appreciate it. And now, on to the show. We start every week with an icebreaker question, and this week is no different. Ryan, I asked you last week, what was the first thing you remember collecting? And that was not necessarily the first thing that you got that became a collection, but what was the first thing that you remember actively seeking out as a collection that you started collecting for a period of time? Since I asked the question, I'll go ahead and I'll bare my soul first.
Sure, go ahead.
After a lot of thought, for me, it came down to one of two things, and really I can't keep straight which one it was. But it was either the, which I got a sample here, the Flare Ultra Marvel series, if you remember these.
Oh, you still got them. I think you remember
I
you
still
told me
have
you still
some,
had some
yes.
of those. Yeah. Oh,
The
those
95s, the 94, or 94s and 95s. Yes. I found these next to my desk. And it was either those or the 92. In 92, they started the X-Men television series, the cartoon series that we all know and love. And they also ran a comic book alongside of it that came out with the episodes. It was the X-Men Adventures series. It started in 1992 as well. Each episode or each issue contained basically the episode that they covered on TV. My memory's a bit foggy around this time because I was like 11 to 13, and that was, well, longer ago than I care to admit. Yeah, so I don't know exactly which one of these came first in my collecting, but they definitely ran. At one point, they were both being collected and sought out together. I was actively collecting Marvel cards and comics for quite a few years through the early and mid 90s. But yeah, one of these was my first major collection sets. I just don't remember which one. I'm going to go with probably the comic series just because it came out earlier. But I don't know if I was seeking those out after the fact or what, because really all my collecting took place over that summer whenever I came back home. And we would go up to Marcy's Cards and Comics. That's where I got the majority of my stuff at. Back home, the comic book shops were further out. I couldn't ride my bike to them. We had one that was around the corner, but it focused mostly on like sports memorabilia and stuff like that. And they would have some comic book cards. And so I'd get a few there occasionally, but mostly I went there for like football cards because I collected football cards at the same time as well. But yeah, so for me, it was either the Marvel Flare Ultra series, which I love, is a fantastic series. The art style is amazing on those cards, which is probably what drew me to them, or the X-Men Adventures comic series. One of those two. Dealer's choice.
Yeah, those cards, oh man, those cards are beautiful. Like, even today, you're looking at them, you're just like, gosh,
they still make them too.
Do they?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, they made a series recently for the Spider-Man movies, and they did one for, I think it was just X-Men in general, or Avengers or something like that. But yeah, they roll them about once a year. They put out a new set, Marvel themed. They also still do like baseball and hockey and all that stuff too. So what was yours?
Oh, man, I had a hard time thinking about this because there's so many things that I like had a lot of as a kid. But I'm like, what did I actually collect? Like, became a collection, I guess, or how did you word it? Didn't necessarily
actively sought out as a collection.
Sought out.
You were trying to obtain.
Probably. Well, okay. I guess you can consider this. I had a lot of action figures, and there was a point where I really I would there'd be action figures that I would see on like TV or whatever, and I'd be like, I want those. Like, and I would play with them. It wasn't just like I got them just to, you know, let them sit on the shelf or whatever. But I could never get enough action figures. Like, I had stuff from the Alien movies. I had like Batman the Animated Series, Batman '88, like Predator, all these things. I mean, it didn't matter. Like, I had X-Men action figures. I had anything you can imagine. Like, if I was into it, even the slightest bit, I'm like, oh, I got to get the action figure for that. You know, It was just, I don't know. They were a lot of fun, and I stopped collecting them at some point. I don't know. Like, they, you know, they went to a garage sale or something, and they're completely gone. I don't know where they were at, but I don't know if you consider that a collection. I guess there was that. The only other thing I can really think of that I actually started actively really hot and heavy looking for, that I would more consider a collection than the action figures, is my Funko Pops. When I started collecting those about 10 years ago or so, like, I remember, like, my mother got me for my birthday one year. It was like when the Pop line was just coming out. Mm-hmm. And they had I'm looking at that's what I'm looking on the screen. They had Back to the Future set that had Marty in the DeLorean. Oh yeah. And then so she got me that, and then she got me a Doc Brown to go with it, and he's holding like the remote control for the DeLorean. He's got his goggles up on his head because she knew I was really into Back to the Future. Yeah. And so I got those, and then like I had those set up. And then I remember at work one day, like I had a cubicle, and somebody else had brought in something of theirs and like some pictures of their family or whatever, and they set it up in the cubicle. And I'm like, I think I can bring my Pops in here. I can get away with this. Yeah. So I started bringing I brought those in. Those are the only ones I had at the time. And I set them up, and I got a bunch of comments from people at work. They're like, oh man, that's really cool. Where'd you get there? Whatever. I'm like, oh, you know, I tell them about it. And that's the point where I started actively seeking Funko Pops, because I started looking and seeing what are the ones they had. So I'd buy them. So really, it was for me, but then it was also like a flex almost, you know. And it's like, oh, I can put these up in my work cubicle, and I would constantly have people commenting on them, like, oh, you got a new one, you know, or whatever. So I guess maybe that is the first time I ever actively started collecting stuff, like for the sake of just having it.
Hunting them down.
Yeah, and hunting them down. So it's a little more recent than yours, but...
Well, you've been buying Funko Pops a lot longer than I think you think. I remember you bought, I think it was for Bruce, when he was first born, a little Yoda. It was like a little stuffed Yoda.
Oh, yeah.
That was a Funko Pop.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, that's a good 13 years ago. That was Funko Pop. I know because the first Funko Pops I got were whenever Taylor was first born, and they were those plushy little Funko Pops. Oh. Or Funko characters, and I got her like or no, it was whenever Bruce was first born, sorry. So it was like a good 13, 14 years ago. And they were, I got him a Batman and an Elvis, because they had an Elvis at Fry Electronics of all places. But yeah, that was the first time I saw the Funko Pops. And I think that's how they, whenever they first started doing the pop figures, I think that was one of the first lines they did, along with, I don't know if they were doing the bobbleheads yet, like they do them now. I know they were doing bobbleheads before, but they were like kind of taller, more traditional looking bobbleheads. And they were doing like what, classic like serial characters and Hanna-Barbera and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. There was some documentary I watched on it that was really interesting that went into like all that. But yeah. And so like, the first, like what we know as Funko Pops now, the first ones of those I saw, they were like little stuffed animal ones. Probably like, I don't know, like 5 or 6 inches tall. And you got Bruce a Yoda one. And wow. I mean, I remember getting that. I just didn't realize it was a Funko thing. So Funko, like maybe I have been getting them for longer than I realized. But anyway, Funko Pops. That's what I. And sometime when I have the time, when I have the space, they'll be behind me here. There you go. So everyone can see when I record, because I got to flex them, right?
That's right.
So
got to show them off. I mean, what's the point of having them if you don't share
That's right.
Share them with everybody visually.
That's
at least.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. And I'm going to roll our intro and we'll be back in just a minute, folks.
Yeah, stick with us.
That's right. Your local video store card.
A comic book in your back pocket.
Games with no tutorials.
Music you had to discover.
And drinking water straight from the hose.
These are the things us millennials remember fondly. We are the Jennings brothers.
Join us after the streetlights come on
as we race our bikes from the top of the hill
right down memory lane.
Exchange those quarters because this podcast takes tokens.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Today we are talking the 2005 movie, Sin City. Now, this episode will actually be released April 1st, 2025, exactly 20 years after the original film was released. Our goal is to only talk about things that are at least 20 years old, and I think technically this qualifies. And so we're going to allow it.
It completely qualified. I was a senior in high school when this came out, so it qualifies.
Yes, the millennial gambit runs wide.
Yes.
So yeah, this was filmed in right in my backyard. This was filmed in Austin, Texas.
Really?
At Robert Rodriguez's studio that he lives right across the street from because he doesn't ever want to be too far away from work. Talk about a workaholic.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. This one has a runtime of 2 hours and 4 minutes. That's black to black, beginning to end, with a budget of $40 million. Opening weekend, $28 million, with a worldwide gross of $158 million. This was a moderate success.
Yeah.
And it shows. It was a great movie. Great movie at the time, and it's still a great movie. I feel like this movie holds up pretty well. I didn't find a lot to like poo-poo on, but I'll bring that up later. We'll start with the praise. We're going to heap some praise on this one.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, upon reviewing, what would you say?
First off, I'm going to say this. What a cast, right? Yes. I mean, there is not a single character down to just like Nick Offerman, who doesn't even have a speaking role. Like every single character in this movie is perfect. Like, is just cast spectacularly. My gosh. Like, they could just like have a TED talk on like how to cast characters with this movie. I cannot heap enough praises on that. This is just such fantastic casting.
Who was probably your favorite character cast here? Or just favorite character in the movie, not in the comics, but in this movie?
My favorite character in the movie, probably Marv.
Yeah.
I think so. I want to say
Hardigan.
Is it Hartington?
But I'm with you.
Yeah, Hardigan. But it's kind of Marv. Like Hardigan's great.
Yeah.
But it's, I think, well, and that was a question I was going to ask you anyway. I'll go ahead and ask it now.
Sure.
And I'll give you my answer as I'm doing it. What was your favorite story of the three that are in this movie? Mine was Marv's. I really enjoyed Marv. I think the first time when I watched this as an 18-year-old, I think it was probably Dwight's story. But that may be because I was an 18-year-old boy and there was a lot of scantily clad women in that. I don't know. But like on a rewatch, like, I don't know, Mickey Rourke is so good in this role.
He really is. Yeah.
And it's like, even down to when he's going through his inventory because he's going to go and kill Kevin. And he's like, I've got my hatchet. I checked my inventory. I got my hatchet. Yeah. I've got my barbed wire, my gloves. in my mitts. It's great. It's great.
It's perfect for noir too. Like absolutely perfect for noir. I think my favorite though still remains the Hardigan storyline. I really I dug that. It's still my favorite, but not by as wide of a margin. I would agree. The Marv storyline is it's pretty great. I enjoyed that one a lot, and I think I enjoyed the Marv story. I think, well, that's the Clive Owen storyline, the Dwight storyline. But so yeah, for me, it's probably that. Or I mean, even just the opening one. What is it? The Customer's Always Right. That one is really great, and it's just it's a fantastic opening to the movie. We're introduced to like so much in those first few minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the color palette there with the black and the white. And all you get is like the red of like her dress and lipstick, and then the green of her eyes whenever the lighter goes up, which we saw for those of us that were tuned in at the very beginning, whenever we were accidentally running the beginning of the episode, the beginning of the movie. But I enjoyed it thoroughly. I really like this use of color throughout the movie that really brings like, I think this is probably the most well done comic book movie that looks like a comic book,
like a visual.
Like this visually, looks like a motion comic book. Like if you were to just take in, and it makes sense because of some of my research notes here, like that this movie, Frank Miller, and Robert Rodriguez used the comic book as storyboard for the movie. So they shot based off of the comic books. All the dialogue was based off of the comic books. In fact, there isn't a screenwriter credit in this because there is no screenwriter. They used the comic book as as everything. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, like it says the original graphic novel was used as the storyboard for this movie, and there is no screenwriter. This is considered by the director to be a direct translation of the source material. And Rodriguez and Miller planned all of the shots together for this movie. In fact, to build on that a little further, Robert Rodriguez resigned from the Directors Guild of America because of this movie.
Really? Why
just before shooting, he resigned from the Directors Guild of America because they refused to give Miller a co-director credit. And so Rodriguez resigned from the Directors Guild of America, and as a result, he lost his director's seat on John Carter, and it went off to somebody else and ultimately obscurity, and became a movie that I have not seen and have not been given a good reason to see.
Yeah. What could have been if Rodriguez would have directed that? Yeah.
But yeah, this is and Frank Miller, Rodriguez wants to film all of Miller's Sin City books stories as or to translate them all to film like this. But because of A Dame to Kill flopping like it did, all that got put on hold, and it remains to be seen if he's going to get to make any further ones. But he does want to do the entire storyline on film, which would just be incredible. I'm down. I'm signing up for all of it. Although, to be honest, I can't remember A Dame to Kill for. I'm pretty sure I saw it.
I haven't seen it, but I want to watch it now after watching this. Like I know I
forgot about it.
Yeah. I think it kind of, I don't remember it coming out. Like I almost feel like that movie flew so low under the radar, like they didn't maybe they didn't advertise. I don't know. I mean clearly this one didn't, like, it made 28 million the first week or something. Like it didn't even hit budget at that point. But
I mean, rarely do they in the first week.
Well,
and the other one came out like 10 years after too.
Yeah,
and it didn't have a lot of the same cast coming back as well.
Yeah.
Like you didn't have Bruce Willis wasn't.
Will Smith wasn't in.
Will Smith wasn't in the movie. Bruce Willis wasn't in the movie, which is like a big one. Yeah, like he was one of the more notable cast members that did not return. Because I think they recast him younger and told like more of his backstory. If I want to
I mean, I know Clive Owen wasn't in it because, I mean, there was Dwight. The character Dwight was in it, but it was Josh Brolin.
Before he got the face change or whatever, right?
Yeah. And I think...
Oh, yeah, Bruce Willis was in it as Hardigan. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Marv was in
Mickey
it. Yeah.
Rourke was in it, yeah. Jessica Alba was in it.
Ray Liotta was
Rosario
in it.
Dawson was, yeah.
I'd be down. Yeah, I got to go back and watch this one. I don't know. Maybe I didn't watch this one. I thought I did. Maybe I didn't. Mm-hmm. There's definitely some things in here where I'm like, I don't remember that. But
yeah, I need to go watch it. But like I said, I didn't even realize there was a sequel until I was like doing research for this. I'm like, there was a second one. Like I had no idea. So now I totally need to go watch it. I mean, yeah, maybe I won't like it as much, but I'm gonna give it a shot. Like I don't know.
Right, absolutely. See, maybe that's part of the problem. It just didn't have good advertising budget. I don't know.
Yeah,
but yeah, like this one though, it changed a lot. This was the first movie to be shot entirely. It's the first fully digital movie. It's considered the first fully digital movie, or one of the first, because there's a couple right around the same time. But fully digital in the respect that it was shot on digital 100%, and it was filmed on a green screen.
There's not a lot of actual sets there.
No, not a lot of actual sets. Like I think they said the bar, Hardigan's cell, and the apartment are the only real sets throughout the whole thing. The rest of it's just like digital in post. In fact, another interesting fun fact is, because of the way this movie was shot, green screen and everything, the character Brittany Murphy played, she came in, she filmed all of her stuff in one day, and then she was out and done. Didn't meet all of the cast, didn't even meet some of her co-stars. Marv and Kevin, Mickey Rourke and Elijah Wood, didn't meet until after the premiere, despite sharing so many scenes together, which is insane. Yeah,
that's nuts. Especially that scene where they're fighting. Like,
yeah, but I mean, like, I read this afterwards and I thought back upon it. I was like, really, like, the camera just cuts back and forth between the two. The only time that they're really even kind of on screen together is whenever he handcuffs them, and that could just be composite imaging. Like, they don't have to be like side by side necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, for all we know, it could be Robert Rodriguez's wrist.
That's right.
There, you know, we don't know. Yeah,
we don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah, but man, yeah, this was a great movie. It's fun. I like that the way they tell like kind of 4 different stories here, and they kind of break it all up. It kind of reminds me of Pulp Fiction in that way, which explains, I mean, not explains a lot, would make sense because Robert Rodriguez was inspired by and mentored by Quentin Tarantino.
Oh yeah,
early in his career. Yeah,
they collaborate so much together.
Tarantino directed one of the scenes in this movie, so he directed the scene with Dwight and Jimmy Boy. What's his name? Jackie Boy.
Jackie Boy. Yeah.
Where they're in the car, and the police are coming up behind him, like that whole thing. He directed that a little bit there, which was actually a payback because he hired Robert Rodriguez to do the score for one of his more recent movies. I forget which one. I think he scored part of like Kill Bill or something like that.
Okay.
And he got paid $1. And then he said, I'll pay you back and I'll come in and I'll direct part of one of your next movies. And so he came in and directed it for $1.
I see.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Fun facts. That's what I bring to the game.
I like them.
So I got to know, while we're on the subject of Marv being one of our favorite characters, what is Marv made out of? Like, he takes shots to the head, dozens of them throughout the movie, breaks through I don't know how many panes of glass. He gets shot so many times. Like, I thought he got shot in the head at one point, and he's still a beast.
But like all of them were like that. I mean, look how many times did Hardigan get shot? I mean, especially in that first scene, like Michael Madison just like blows him away.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know it shows him in the hospital, you know, and the senator's like, I'm going to keep you alive as long as I can, you know.
But he still had to get to that point.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, I guess Dwight doesn't really get shot. He gets that one shot and it just happens to hit that badge.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Marv is a tough son of a gun. I mean, he is. But He goes down from an electric chair.
Right. Well, not the first time.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I was waiting for him to come back. I think he may. I don't know. Did you ever read the comics? I never read the comics.
No, I've wanted to, and I have never got around to reading them. Yeah,
I may go back and read them now because I got to know more about their backstories. There's forward stories. You know what all's going on in this world. Like, well, Hardigan's got that X scar on his forehead. That had to have come from somewhere. I got to know the story behind that. And then Marv is just like a beast. I was reading on it, and in the comic books, Marv is like an 8-foot tall giant. Like he's just like a beast of a man. And Rourke is like a 3-foot tall dwarf or something like that. And so the juxtaposition of those two is supposed to be humorous, I suppose. But the Marv being a beast makes sense because he is very, very beastly. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But that was I got to go back and read those for sure.
Yeah.
So on my watch, I don't know if it was just the version that I'm watching, but at every all the internal monologue, because I think you just have Josh Hartnett's character. I don't know if he has a name, the assassin guy.
Yeah,
and Marv at this point, doing their internal monologues, and it sounds like normal dialogue, it's got the internal feeling or like it's centrally located or whatever in your speaker system. But then whenever he takes those pills at what's her name's house, Gina's house or whatever her name was, his parole officer.
Yep.
It kind of goes a little wonky and echoey. Now I don't know if that's the version that I was watching it on. Did you notice that at all on yours?
I never noticed it.
That was weird. I was watching it and I thought, that's so weird. And I backed up because I thought maybe my sound system's going funky. And I backed up to where Marv was having internal dialogue in the scene before that. It was fine. Cut back to that part and it got it's just a little weird, like a slight echo to it almost. It's really odd. And it was like that for all the internal dialogue afterwards. Now I was watching this on Fandango, so I don't know if anybody out there is watching it on Fandango experience the same thing. I just thought it was kind of weird. I don't remember it doing that in the theaters. And at first I thought, oh, he took those pills and now he's got
now it's echoey or
mushy,
something.
it's like mushy or whatever. But then it started doing it for everybody else after that. And I was like, okay, that's not it. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah.
So I thought
I don't know. I didn't hear it. I watched it on Amazon Prime, so I didn't hear it anything like that on there. So I don't know. But those pills, I think one of the funnier scenes is when he's driving and he's talking about he's like, I got a condition, and he's just taking those pills and he's not taking one. He's downing the whole, and it's falling out of his mouth. And he's they're falling because he's wiping them off his mouth, and then he takes some more. I'm just you are gonna sedate yourself doing this. I don't know what you're taking, but man, you're getting ready to go
he's a tough one.
Stuff.
Yeah. Well, he woke up the next morning out next to Goldie, and he's like, I got my head feels about 2 times too big, and clearly they drugged him.
Yeah.
What did they drug him? They had to drugged him with a lot because clearly he's unaffected by most things. He's a beast of a man. But
absolutely,
man. That was...
It back to. You were talking about the dialogue or the monologues and everything. That's another thing that I really like about this movie.
Yeah.
The monologue, just the way that the dialogue and the monologue, all of that is written. And, again, you said it was direct translated from Frank Miller's writing. It's very noir. I know that's what it's supposed to be, but I love that noir writing because it's so descriptive, but it's very poetic, and even Michael Madison, when he's talking in the beginning to Hardigan, and he's what did he say? He's come on, Hardigan, you're pushing 60 and you got think about your wife. You're pushing 60 and you got a bum ticker and you're not saving anybody. And he delivers it very stiffly. It's if I would watch this as if I went to the theater and I watched this and I'm thinking if I didn't realize that is what they're trying to convey, it's pulp, I'd be like, gosh, this guy's just a terrible actor. But like, it fits with what, like, how he's delivering it is perfect. And just the way everybody like will have these little descriptive things, like, I mean, even Marv, when he's like, then it hits me like a kick in the nuts, you know, but it's just like, it's just the way that I don't know. I love it. I love like every line in the movie is just great.
Yeah. And they play with it so well. Like whenever, Dwight is in the car and, he's got, Jackie Boy there in the seat next to him and Jackie like talking to him. You notice that his internal monologue becomes an external monologue because all of everything that's happening in his mind is now happening out in the real world with Jackie Boy, you know, talking to him and everything, which is just a really cool, like, choice, I suppose. Again, I haven't read the comics, so I don't know if that was the way I guess there's not really a way to, well, I suppose, you know, you have talk bubbles and then you have, narration bubbles, and those are different. So I don't know if in the comic books it's written as narration or if it's written as conversation. So I'll be curious to check that out. I definitely want to go back and read at least the first one. Man, I forgot how much I really enjoyed this film, especially whenever it came out. Like I had this one. This is one of those films I had on DVD, I had Blu-ray, and I had this. I had the UMD for this for my PSP. I watched it all the time. Yes. This was one of my favorites to watch for sure. It was a fun one. Like I said, I just really enjoyed this movie. And you got those like 4 different storylines. So really, like, even if you just watched like the first one, you can. There's like a clear like point to take a break. Like you can watch it on a lunch break, and it breaks it up into like 4 little chunks, which is perfect if you're at work and you only got like a half hour or so. I really liked it. But I mean, I was going to hold off on this one, but since we're on the topic of the dialogue, I have to mention this is the one thing that bugged me about the film. It didn't bug me before, but it bugs me this time watching it. And that is, there's a difference between pulp and noir acting to that, and then pushing it too far, and suddenly it's soap opera acting. And unfortunately, I feel like we got that from both Rosario Dawson and a little bit from Brittany Murphy. They read like they were in a soap opera more so. Like they went to the noir line and they pushed it just a little too far, and it came up as like soap opera acting and everything. And I mean, don't get me wrong, this movie is supposed to be pushed a little bit in that respect, but like I said, like you got the noir line, and then they just went a little too far. It's a little past camp, and it just comes off as like soap opera acting, and it bugged me watching it the second time around. Like just like their deliveries were kind of like, especially Rosario Dawson was really like really grating on me, which is why I think the whole Dwight storyline for me became probably one of my least favorite storylines. It's still a great one. Still enjoyed it, but it's number 4 out of 4 for me on this watch.
Yeah, I caught that more with Brittany Murphy, honestly. It didn't take me out of the movie at all, but like where I think it's like it's after Jackie Boy and his crew had left, and she's like talking to Dwight, maybe after he jumped down or something, and she's like, "You fool," or whatever. However she delivers it, and I'm like, okay, that's a little bit too far, but I don't know. I still thought it was watchable for me.
It's fun. But, I enjoy watching it. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, it's just like, if they could have just dialed it back a little bit, I feel like it would have made it 1,000 times better. And it wouldn't have bugged me on the rewatch. That's all I'm saying. But like I said, it's not something that bothered me before. I've seen this movie dozens of times, and because it's probably been 10 years since I've seen it, or maybe 5. And this time it just kind of bugged me a little bit. But like I said, didn't take me out of it. It was the only thing, only point of criticism I had. Yeah. And I didn't want to avoid that.
This movie for me is tough to criticize. Like we get on here week in, week out, and we find something that we can riff on a little bit on pretty much every movie. I really had a hard time with this one. I was like, gosh, it's like anything on there that's cheesy is intentional.
Yeah.
So it's like, how are you like, how do I can't, which it's fine. It's fine. It just makes it's just an really enjoyable watch,
It is really enjoyable. I mean, like, go ahead. I had a whole thought a minute ago. I'll let you, you get yours out.
You say the thought. You say the thought.
Well, I was going to build off that. Yeah, there's the cheese. But like, it's enjoyable. Like the part where Stuka, one of the bald headed one in there, with Rosario Dawson's character and all that, and he what's her name, Miku, shoots the arrow. Miho. And it goes right through like the center of his chest, not his chest, like his torso, and it's just sticking out front. And he's like, "Hey, look at that!
You seeing this?
It's an arrow. You seeing this? What's going on here?" And he's just like, completely unfazed by it. He's like, "Anybody else? Nothing? Nope." And then like as they're all leaving, he gets hit in the head again in the back, and then it comes right out the middle of that swastika tattoo he's got on his forehead.
Yeah,
and like it's cheesy. It's a little campy, completely unrealistic, but God, that was fun. That was so much fun.
Even towards the end, though, like right as they're leaving, he's like, "Oh, it's kind of starting to hurt." Like he admits it's starting to hurt, but then it just hits him in the back of the head, or goes through his skull. Yeah, that was funny, and it was cheesy, but it was
the right.
It was done in a way. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was done the right way. So I thought it was pretty fun. So you were saying that you had this on DVD, right?
Yeah,
and Blu-ray and all this. So because I had this on DVD at one point. I was actually going to watch it on DVD. I cannot find my DVD of this.
Oh.
Which cover variant did you have? Because they had 4 cover variants.
Oh, that's right. I probably got Hardigan. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got the Hardigan variant. I do remember they did 4 cover variants where you're right. Yeah. I went out and I sought out, Hardigan.
Hardigan and Nancy was on one. And then they had Rosario Dawson and Dwight Clive Owen on one. They had Marvin Goldie, and then they had Benicio del Toro, so Jackie Boy, and Brittany Murphy. So you said you went out and sought the Hardigan one.
Yeah, which is probably like the one most people got, I would assume. But I bet that Marv one is hard to find. I bet that one's probably
it is
the least. Like that's the hard one I bet to find. There's somebody out there's got all 4 of them.
Oh yeah. I was 18 when this movie came out, so I'm not ashamed to admit it. But I had the Brittany Murphy one.
Oh yeah,
because I always thought Brittany Murphy was attractive, whatever. She was like not very clothed on that cover, so I was like, when I was 18, I'm like, I'm buying the Brittany Murphy one.
I enjoy the movie. It's for the articles.
Yeah, that's right. It's for the articles. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
but I remember they had all the variants. Like I think probably got at Walmart or something. They had all the variants there right beside each other.
Yeah.
When you were buying it. But
it was Jessica Alba for me, but dealer's choice.
Well, now watching it though, like I'm like Jessica Alba, like the character's like 19. Like when I was rewatching it, I was thinking like
it's my age.
It doesn't hit the same way as it used to.
No, yeah, that too.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure she was older than that when they were, when they made the movie. But like her character was
25,
and she was 25.
24,
I did
25,
appreciate.
whenever,
I appreciated how I know Hardigan like kissed her, but I appreciate when she was coming on to him. He's like, "I could be your grandfather." Like I appreciated that he didn't like
cross that line.
Because I remember like the way I remembered this before the rewatch was that he did cross the line, and I went ahead and just made a note in there about it, in my notes about it. And then when it didn't happen, I had to delete the note. So I'm like, oh yeah, he didn't do anything. Like, yeah, he kissed her. Like she laid one on him a couple times, but he was like,
she was persistent.
Like, oh yeah,
sure.
Oh yeah. Which I'm sure in his mind, he still sees her as this 11-year-old girl.
Absolutely,
I'm not I'm not going to be the yellow bastard,
But, like 24-year-old me is watching it going, come on, dude. Like, she's throwing herself.
Sure.
Come on.
Sure. But absolutely. Yeah.
43-year-old me is watching it going, oh, that's a little girl. Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Even at our age now, it's like, even me, like, I'm a few years younger than you, but like, even me, I'm watching it, I'm like, I could be your father. A 19-year-old, I'm like, I don't think so.
Yeah. It changes, like, it definitely changes perspective on those things when you go back. Like, we got a couple movies on the list that I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, going back and rewatching that is, as much as I enjoyed it at the time, rewatching it is going to feel a little weird. And it'll be worth exploring. And, like all these, like, you rewatch it, and if you haven't seen it in 10 years or so, you get a completely different, like, perspective on things, and you have a completely different take on the movie. You see it from a different perspective. Like, going back and rewatching that 70s show now, I relate more to Red than I do any of the characters now.
Absolutely. Beyond a shadow of a doubt. Yep.
That's the beauty of things like that. Like, it can speak to you on so many levels. It was the same thing last week when we were doing Roger Rabbit. Like, the Valiant character, like, I saw so much more in him that time around than any other time I'd seen the movie. And this time around, you kind of see things from a little bit of a different perspective, and mad respect to Hardigan for putting the stop to all that and saying, no, this is not right. It definitely, like, it speaks to his character of, the letter of the law, doing what is right is right, whether or not somebody may see it as wrong. But
he's lawful good.
Lawful good. That's it.
Yeah. That's what he is. That's what he is.
We haven't talked about Elijah Wood's character yet.
I was just getting ready to talk about that.
Chilling throughout this movie.
Yeah, he didn't say a word. Doesn't say a word. He's does a villain so well.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my God, this was so surprising because this is just after a year after the last Lord of the Rings dropped with him.
I think so.
Maybe
I think it was 2004. I think it was 2004 when Return of the King. I think 2003 or 2004. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, he's still kind of like this, what
do we do with you?
Good, like good guy actor. Like he's never. I've never seen him in like a villainous role or anything else like that. And then like this comes around, and you're like, oh man, that's like, he can be dark, and it's kind of creepy. He's definitely like he's just my only note on it is he's just chilling. Like he is creepy for sure.
He is, and even when when he is dying.
Yeah.
And Marv says it, he's like, those eyes, like he just kept smiling the whole time. Like as that dog's eating him, his
eyes would glance down at the dog every once in a while. Yeah.
And he just kept smiling. And I'm like, gosh, that is like, I do love the Marv's line when he finally gets him in the handcuffs, right? And he's like, try jumping around like this, you little bastard. Or whatever.
Try jumping now.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, Marvin, that whole scene was great. Like, he's just like, he takes out all those guards and he's got that axe and he hits that one on the head and just like splits the helmet in half. That was great.
Yeah.
Just visually, like the whole movie is just great. There was that one cop in the beginning there with the painted face. He really didn't have much to say. I don't think he had any spoken dialogue. I gotta imagine there's more to him, like in the comic series.
Yeah.
With a character that's drawn up in that way.
Yeah,
like, to not really have much to do. I feel like there was more to him.
Had to have been. Yeah. But I do. I love you get this with any Rodriguez or Tarantino movie. Like it's that stylized violence that is, it's a pure joy to watch. It's just, it's entertaining. It's shot so well. And then in this movie in particular, when you throw in the splashes of color, like, when was it when Dwight had blood spray on him and then all of a sudden it's just red where he's been sprayed. Like his color was red. It's like his shoes were red. That's the emphasis on him.
I think his car was red too.
His car was red.
Yeah.
And, trying to think, I don't know, different people, like the woman in the beginning, her eyes were green, or the priest, his eyes were green.
Yeah. Special cameo there. Do you know who the priest was?
Well, so Frank Miller, there was the priest. I was thinking of the other, yes, he was. Okay. Yeah, that was Frank Miller. I was thinking of the other one that was like, helped Kevin out with his like eating and all that stuff. That
the main guy.
Maybe he was a cardinal or something, like
cardinal,
bishop or something like that. Yeah.
Because he was the brother to what's his name?
The senator
Rourke. Yeah, he was Rourke's brother. Which I think like really played into this kind of ties into my theory. But Junior, I don't think he wanted to kill like all these women that he goes around and he's killing. Not Elijah's character, Jumpy. What was his name? I can't remember his name now. Anyways, not him.
The yellow bastard?
Yeah, the yellow bastard. Junior,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he wanted to kill anybody. I think it was more of a, like, he got into the position and he ends up killing them for sure through the series of circumstances. But I feel like after he performs whatever acts that he performs, he feels like he has to kill them to almost save their innocence or release them of his evil deeds that are probably like some twisted, like, I don't know. I feel like between his father, the senator, who's just like greedy for power, and his uncle, the what do you call him? Bishop or whatever.
The bishop, or
there's like this, like,
I'm not Catholic. I'm sorry. Like, if you are, leave in the comments. Let us know what he was. Yeah, I'm not trying to disrespect anything.
I think there's like this twisted duality between those two worlds, in that they kind of feed off of one another, and then and I can't fully articulate this thought, and that's the problem. But I think like he's not wanting to kill him, because like whenever he's got Hardigan, like, and he kicks the table out from underneath Hardigan, he doesn't stay behind to watch him die. Like, I think there's like subconsciously there's guilt, so he's got to leave because he can't watch him die. So he leaves and goes off and does his own thing. And then it's the same thing like later on. He's got Hardigan dead to rights. He's on the ground. And he's got the knife, and he's narrating, "I'm going to kill you with this knife. Okay, I'm really going to kill you. I'm going to do it now. Here it comes. It's coming." And like looking for that excuse to not do it almost, or hoping to be interrupted because Hardigan hasn't earned it the same way that these girls have throughout all this time. Now, again, that's just like my own personal theory on it. But yeah, you kind of see that in like a lot of these films where like the bad guy doesn't necessarily want to kill. They kill more out of aggression in the moment and not in so much as a premeditated, I'm going to take my time and kill you type of way.
Yeah.
But the good guy has no problem taking out the bad guy in the heat of the moment, or even just like taking a minute and executing the kill shot, if you will, because it's justified or whatever the case may be. But there's definitely like, I feel like there was an internal struggle with the Yellow Bastard that I hope gets fleshed out a little bit more whenever I go back and read the comics.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I didn't get that. I didn't get that vibe from. But it's fine. It's fine. I thought like, because he says, well, on the back half of the Hardigan and Nancy story, when Nancy will not scream, and because he can't perform without her screaming, I'm like, well, to me that's like, well, he gets off on like, doing this and then killing them because he loves the screaming, he loves all of it. And then of course his father's just just as bad as he is. He's like, I'm just gonna let him do whatever, it doesn't make any difference.
Power is power.
But to me, what defined the character of the Yellow Bastard
him being yellow.
Well, yeah, that's it. Yeah. When they're in that hotel room and Hardigan is hanging by his neck, he's not hung yet. The table's underneath him. And the Yellow Bastard's on the phone and he's talking to his goons or whatever, and he's like, "Do it, or I'm going to tell my dad."
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, the way he says that, I can picture like that personality of, he's
I'm
like
gonna tattle.
I'm gonna tattle. He's like those
spoiled rich kid.
These spoiled rich kids, like college that, beat up some girl and their dad gets them out of it, or whatever. Like and it just makes me hate the character more. It's like, oh, just Hartigan, just, and then when Hartigan just beats him into the ground,
you're feeling that, it's visceral.
And his foot's kind of twitching there at the end, and you're just like, yes, just
takes away his gun, both of them,
Which, that guy has lost that twice. Like it gets shot off, and then medicine rebuilds
somehow.
And then it gets literally pulled off. I mean, deserves every bit of everything that happens to him. Gets like literally just ripped off. I'm like, maybe that may be the most satisfying moment in the whole movie.
Yeah, that's pretty satisfying for sure. Because he's beating him into the ground. You can hear just like that sound of bone and sinew, just like making that like. That weird, like that sloppy sound for sure. And it's very graphic, and you kind of enjoy it a little bit. You've grown to hate this little yellow bastard.
Oh yeah.
And you've hated him since the moment you've met him. There is not a redeeming quality about this guy. So he did have it coming. I would agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So one more thing I want to talk about.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. Finish.
I was going to say, you were talking about the colors and everything. Did you notice that, like, in the club, there was more color? Like, there was color everywhere.
Yes. Yep.
But it was like a muted color. But it was the only place where there wasn't, like, specifically a black and white with a color. It was just, like, everything generally had a muted color to it.
Yeah.
I found that interesting. I wonder why.
Yeah. I think because that's the one place where all the characters converge at.
Oh, okay.
So they're never. I mean, they may be. Well, I don't know if they. I don't think. I think that is the one place where all three stories converge, because none of them interact with each other. The rest of the main cast.
I was thinking about that. I think whenever Hartigan and Nancy are driving down the road in her car to her apartment, I think Marv passes them on the road. Like they do like an overhead shot, and there's a car that like quickly passes them, and I think it was Marv.
Okay.
As he's like driving to wherever he's driving to.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know. I'm guessing. I saw it and I thought, is that Marv? And then I wanted to go back and watch both the scenes again and kind of like look and see if it was the same cars, but I didn't get a chance to. But I mean, in a movie that's completely digital, there's a reason why that car passed them on the road. That has to be somebody. It's my theory. It's somebody. At least.
I have to rewatch it. Yeah. We need to go through and just, there'll be a bonus episode. We just like analyze this movie frame by frame. No. Yeah. I mean, I think Marv's story chronologically would have to be the last one, because just based on the ending of his story, because he ends up going to prison, and everything. Because if what you're saying is Marv going, that's Hartigan's last half of his story. So like Marv's still doing all this other stuff while Hartigan,
because Marv is just starting at that point.
Yeah. And the Dwight story would be going on at that point, because Dwight hooks up with Brittany Murphy's character at the bar there that night, because that's where they meet. And that would be all that other stuff that follows that would be going on that evening as well. So
yeah. Well, I know that whenever Marv shows up at Nancy's apartment, which, fun fact, was shot on 2 different days. Nancy's part was shot separate from Marv's part. That's why they're not on screen together. Like it's like a cut between the two of them. But anyways, whenever he shows up at her apartment, that's after everything had happened with Hartigan. she came back and she got everything cleaned up, and like it had been a couple of days at that point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
In this, in the weird like storyline stuff. I can't remember why. There was something I was watching and they explained it, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so that's why that's there. It may have just been that Hartigan was at the bar whenever Marv's story was starting out, and so like chronologically the way time works, a couple of days later, Hartigan's out.
Yeah,
that's clearly like she's cleaned up and everything, and she's back on her feet. Which Hartigan's storyline ends. with this movie. I'm assuming now. I don't know. I mean, maybe in the comic, like we saw that he had a scar there already, so clearly he had been shot. And I thought at some point he got shot in the head.
Yeah.
Whenever the whole thing was going down with the yellow bastard, so maybe he survived. Like, I'm assuming like this is a comic book movie. He could have survived.
Who knows? Yeah.
Who knows? It'd be interesting to see.
His that line. One of his last lines is another question I was going to ask you. What's your favorite line in the movie? Mine is his at the end where he's like talking about like, okay, now that I've killed this guy, I can go and he's like, his inner monologue, I can go take care of the senator. I can, take care of all these people. And he's realizing how broad of scope the corruption is in Basin City. Yeah. So then he says, so my favorite line is, I'm going to read it here. Maybe once I pull off that miracle, I'll go and punch out God. Yeah. Because it's like, this is such an impossible thing. If I can do that, why can't I do this? And there's a lot of great lines in the movie though.
See, I read that as he told her all that stuff to get her to leave, knowing full well that he was going to do what he was going to do.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And internally, he was just like, he was mocking it almost, repeating it and then saying, yeah, sure. And then I'm going to go punch out God. Like, clearly this isn't going to happen. This is the end of my story. But my favorite line is, maybe it's just because we just talked about it, but I didn't give it much thought throughout watching it, but is just the little like, in my mitts, for whatever reason. It's the delivery. It's just so great. I enjoyed it so much.
See, everything about that. It's like
it's one of those things that like I repeat to myself, at least internally, all the time.
Yeah,
my mitts.
My mitts. I was thinking that today when I was at work. I was thinking about that. Yeah, and then I was thinking about
my mitts.
I was thinking about the Dwight one where he's like, give me a. What was it? A decent,
hard top with a decent engine.
Hard top with a decent engine. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's some good ones. The part where Jackie Boy, he gets his hand cut off, and he's dying, and then he turns around and he slips on his own hand and lands on that ninja star.
Yes.
And then like he's crawling away and it's still sticking out of his butt. That was great. I enjoyed that. That was
Del Toro
a good little
he's just great.
Rodriguez. Del Toro. Yeah.
Del Toro. Yeah.
So interesting little fun fact on that. Johnny Depp was originally approached to play Jackie Boy, but was actually like up for it and all but signed on, and then had scheduling conflicts and had to back out. And so Rodriguez was at the Academy Awards and saw Del Toro accepting an award with like long hair. And Rodriguez went up to him afterwards, shook his hand and said, "Don't cut your hair." And then he mailed him a copy of the graphic novel and that The Customer Is Always Right, which I'll go back into in a second. And Del Toro watched it, read the comic book, and signed on immediately. Said, "I'm in, 100%. Let's do this."
Awesome.
Yeah, which is just like one of those great little like Hollywood how it came to be stories. But so the opening scene, The Customer Is Always Right, with Josh Hartnett, that was signed or that was shot before Frank Miller signed off on the movie being made. So Rodriguez shot that in his little studio. In just like a couple of days, did all the post-production on it. And so it was just a little short originally. And he showed that to Miller and a couple of the studio heads. to get them to sign off on this movie. Because like everybody was telling him, this is impossible. This can't be made. What you're proposing is ridiculous. This isn't a movie that people are going to want to see. And he's like, no, listen, it's going to work. And so he shot just that opening scene. The customer's always right. And showed that to them. And they were like, yeah, okay, we're doing it. And Miller signed off immediately after watching. He was like, you're my guy. Awesome. Let's do it. And then they worked together throughout the whole film, which is, like fantastic. It was a great little bit there.
That scene at the end where he's in the elevator, that was, you may have this news, that was actually written for the movie specifically. Yeah.
It's one of my favorite ones because that's like that's a nice little like come up. It's on her, like, betrayed everybody, and then you know what's going to happen. Like you see him in the elevator, you're like, oh yeah, you know what's coming. So
and it's a nice little bow that ties. It bookends, I guess. That ties the whole movie up. Yeah. So one thing that I wanted to touch on, how disgusting it is when I watch scenes when somebody's face gets thrown in a toilet, and we see it twice in this movie. And the first time,
the first one was the worst.
Oh, that toilet looked gross.
Yeah,
oh, it was
like he had some floaters in there.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah. It was bad. It was bad. It kind of reminded me, like one of my grossest scenes is in is it Train Spotting, and it's got Ewan McGregor in it. Yep. And he's in it's like the worst bathroom in England, or London,
comes, like,
or something.
Crawling out of the toilet or something like that.
So gross. It's so gross. But this was bad. And then when Dwight sticks Jackie Boy's head, like after he's just peed, he's like, you made
two mistakes.
Two mistakes. You didn't.
One of them was not flushing.
And then you see it from underneath. Yeah. And then when he finally comes up, which I love that shot, his hair, and he's like looking all around and his hair is just flopping. Yeah. And then he burps up that urine and everything.
Which,
so
gross. That was like so well acted. Just that little bit, that little bit of him like regurgitating it. Like instead of, he could have just been like, bleh, like really quick or whatever. But like he he built it up like it does. Like whenever you feel like you're going to throw up, it doesn't just like, I mean, sometimes it comes out of nowhere, but like something like that, it's going to you're going to feel it like a little bit, like a burp or a hiccup. And it's going to it's going to try a couple times and then it's going to go. And it was just like, I believed it 100% that he swallowed some of that water.
Oh yeah. And then I love when he comes out of there and like his
no questions.
Boys are like, and that's it. That's that line. No questions. Like it's just delivered so well. And
he does fantastic for sure.
Yeah. I mean, like we've been saying, this movie is, and Michael Clark Duncan is, just, I mean,
small
the
part,
little that he's in it. Oh man, everybody in this movie is just is great. It's so well, it's just so well cast, and
it's fun. Yeah. It's just fun.
Yeah. It's a great movie
it for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I've got two more little tidbits, and do you have anything else?
No, I think that was my wrap up. So
okay, well, I'm gonna leave you with these two. I'm gonna go one at a time here. Quick one. While they were filming this movie, they were also preparing for 300, and there's a line of internal dialogue from Dwight in the Old Town Alley, the slaughter with the gangs, and he says internally, "No escape, no surrender, no mercy." That was a nod to the 300 movie and book that Frank Miller wrote, that they adapted the next year. And it was repeated again in the very similar circumstance. No escape, no surrender, no mercy. I thought that was a nice little tie-in, like a little tease that we didn't know about. But I mean, not that I would if I didn't know that these comic books existed until the movies came out.
Oh, sure.
But
yeah.
You live and learn. The other one is, the two handguns that Hartigan has there is he's going to rescue Nancy at the end and at the end of his storyline. Did you recognize one of those?
I felt like I should have, but I didn't.
So one of those handguns is a nod to Robert Miller, who was co-writer for RoboCop 2 and RoboCop 3. It was RoboCop's gun, which is
really? Okay,
fantastic. Yeah. So another little fun fact there for you. I mean, it was modeled after his gun. I don't think it was the same gun. I'm pretty sure
it wasn't
it was
the exact same one. Yeah.
Although the swords,
wouldn't that be a great crossover? You know, like Yellow Bastard sitting there and through the wall breaks
RoboCop.
Breaks RoboCop. Freeze, creep.
Freeze, bastard. But the swords that Miko used were actually from Kill Bill. They were some of the swords of the gang that attacks the bride.
Mm-hmm. Crazy 88s.
Yeah, the Crazy 88s, yes. Yeah. It was the swords from that. Tarantino just had them in his garage. And they were, he was talking with Rodriguez about this movie. He's like, I got these swords left over from Crazy 88. You want to use those? And he's like, yeah, sure. So they go over and sure enough, they used these swords from Kill Bill that was shot like 2 years ago. Which I just thought was pretty funny.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great.
But yeah, that's all I got on 300 or 300 Sin City. 300.
300. Well, we'll have a 300 episode at some point. Yeah.
Any comments this week?
I didn't have any comments. What I will say, we got a new subscriber on YouTube, Marty Party. Subscribed yesterday. Party. So welcome, Marty Party.
Yeah.
Love having you on board. Get on a comment. Tell us what you think about the show. Tell us what you think about the episodes, or which ones you like or don't like or whatever. So
subscribe everywhere. Yeah. This podcast takes tokens. We are on all of it.
Yes, we are. So my question for you for next week.
Shoot.
This movie inspired this a little bit. Who is your favorite non-conventional hero? So like Marv. Marv's like, like he becomes a hero. Yeah, sure. You can say anti-hero. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna think about that. I don't have to answer.
Don't say Deadpool.
No. Don't say non-comic book characters.
Yes. Yeah.
That'll be the stipulation.
I mean, you can say Deadpool if you want to, but I'm just.
It wouldn't be Deadpool either way.
Yeah. Okay.
He's up there. He's just not the favorite.
Yeah. I don't know. Something I don't even know the answer to this yet. So I thought, well, what's a good question to ask for next week? So anyway, with that, my friends, we have reached another checkpoint. Remember, like we said before, sharing is caring. Reviews help a lot. Please leave us a review. We would appreciate that. You can leave it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Like, subscribe, share. Leave us comments. Tell us how your day's going. We don't care. We'd love to hear about it. Yeah.
This podcast has tokens. This podcast takes everything.
Yeah. Fun. Sorrow. No, that may be a little bit deep.
Let's keep it lighthearted.
We'll take it.
But I mean, if you got something deep, if you want to get deep, you can DM us. We'll
there we go. Yeah, we'll be here. We'll be your shrink or something. I don't know. I'm just
unsolicited advice.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, thanks for listening. We will see you next week, and be kind, everyone.
See y'all around.
This Podcast Takes Tokens is a Clay Street production.